This is Taylor Mason, and I'm here today with former Representative Harold James. This is an ongoing oral history project on the Pennsylvania Legislative Black Caucus, diversity in the House, and its impact on members and staff. Thank you so much for taking time to do this today. So just a little background, if you could just tell me a little bit about your career and life before you got to the House and how you got to the House then.
Okay. Well, I started out as a Philadelphia police officer and eventually retired. But as being a police officer, I was active in the equality and inclusion of African Americans into the police department. Because at the time that I joined the force in 1965, there was different riots going on around the country, and blacks was not included in the hiring practices, and then that's when they start hiring more minorities in the different departments around the country. So I became a police officer, and I became active in the Guardian Civic League, which was an organization of African American police officers, and we was championing the causes for including more minorities in the hiring, include more minorities into promotions. And then my buddy, who was also a police officer, one of my best friend, at one point he decided, and this was like in 1986, 87, to run for sheriff, and he won the Democratic nomination for sheriff, and which surprised a lot of people. And then at that time I said, well, I need to be running for state rep in my district because I didn't think I wanted to do more for the community. And so that's what inspired me to run for state rep.
Okay. Well, I also saw in your survey, I was wondering about your radio program that you host, the Justice Hour.
Right.
You could talk about how that started and maybe what type of things you talked about during that program. Right.
Well, that started because of our activity in the community with the Guardian Civic League. We were, there was a lot of tension with police and community. So what we did as the Guardian Civic League, we would hold what we call community rep sessions in the community, where we would invite the community to come to talk to police officers, off-duty police officers, about their concerns and how they can improve relationships. And we would hold these meetings in a church once a week. And usually it was on a Thursday because a lot of church services had activities on Mondays and Wednesdays. So we would usually do it on a Thursday or Tuesday. And we had these meetings and we was going all around the city doing this. And then so one of the, I don't know if he was the owner or a principal at the radio station, WRD at that time, and decided to say, hey, look, we'd like to let you guys get on radio to talk about the things you're doing. And so as a result of that, we had what we call Police Commissioner Rizzo, who, was a overbearing police commissioner and caused a lot of controversy. So he would, we would hold these meetings and talk about issues. And so therefore, my buddy, after he ran for sheriff, and the guy from the radio said, look, I'd like you guys to come on radio. So we started going on radio. And at the same time, the police commissioner was talking about running for a third term or trying to change some policy so he can run for a third term. So then we said, well, we come on radio. So we started coming on radio. I think it was maybe once a week, and then it eventually went down to once a month. And so the show's been going on, and different hosts been hosting it since 1979.
That's interesting. I was really curious about that program then. Okay, that's to know.
I do it every first Saturday now, for an hour, and then we call it the Justice Hour.
I'm taking notes while you're writing this stuff down. So
while I do it, one of my co-hosts is Ronald Waters, who also, he's a co-host on the show with me.
Well, if you get to talk to him, you got to tell him
Mhm.
do an oral history. We'd love to hear his stories as well then.
Right.
Okay. So you got to the house then. So what was your experience being Black in the house? Do you think race made things a little more difficult for you in terms of campaigning or getting bills passed? Maybe it wasn't, but anything you'd like to enlighten on that?
Well, I think what it was is the fact that um, being a minority, African American, um, I think what it was is that uh, you had to be more aggressive in terms of what our concerns was, and we wanted to make sure that the leadership and that the other members knew when we had issues on the floor, express our concerns of our constituents in our community, because a lot of times they would do policies that impact our community, and they didn't realize how or how much it impacted our community. And so we would have to be able to express and raise those concerns.
Okay. So then moving to your district, you represented the 186th, which was portions of Philadelphia. Could you describe a little bit about your district? What made it unique? What was the makeup of your district? What type of issues were important to your constituents?
Well, I think the district was about, I would say it was about 70% African American, um, and it was diversified. It represented parts of major parts of South Philly and Southwest Philly, and uh, we it was interesting in terms of addressing concerns that impact our community. Whenever you have development, one thing was helpful was the fact that we were able to get legislative initiative grants, and which we were able to, or I was able to give to different community organizations to improve relationships, to enhance relationships, and to impact the community.
Okay. So looking at your district history, who served before and after you, very well-known list of predecessors and successors. What was your relationship like with your predecessors, and do you have a relationship with anyone who has served after you?
Yes, I still have a relationship with Jordan Harris, who came in after me, and with the predecessor before me, I did not have a relationship, but I eventually hired his son to work for me, so which I thought that was good, and but I do have a relationship with Jordan Harris and Kenyatta Johnson, who came after me, and Kenyatta, who defeated me in 2008, was also an intern in my office before he decided to run, and and so that was interesting.
Yeah. So I also have on here Edward Wiggins and Earl Van also served a couple.
Right, they was before me.
Did you know about anything about them or work with them at all?
No, I did not work with any of them. I knew them to be elected officers, elected in those positions before me, or I was a police officer, but I did not work with them.
Okay. Well, then outside your district, then did you work with any other members really closely while you're running for the House or while you were in the House?
Oh yes, we worked a lot with other state reps joining my district in terms of like Bevett Joseph, Bill Keller, who was adjoining to me in the districts, and we worked together in dealing with issues as it impact our community. That was necessary in terms of trying to bring resources to the district. I think working together with other members was very helpful.
Okay, well, I'm actually going to show you a quick picture. I like to show this to the former members to see, let me know if you can see it or not.
Let me get close. Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, well, this is the Black Caucus from 1983. And I use this as kind of like a bouncing point to see if any of these individuals spark any memories or any stories that come to mind when you see these individuals.
Oh yeah, well, uh, the former speaker, Leroy Irvis, Dave Richardson, Frank Oliver, who was there for a long time, and I don't see Dwight.
He is actually to the right of Mr. Irvis. He's really young in this picture.
Oh no, that's why I didn't recognize him. Okay, yeah, yeah. Well, Dave Richardson was a advocate for change and reform, and was well known throughout the city, and was like a mentor to me when I came into the house. And as a police officer heading the Guardian Civic League, we work with him on different issues.
Okay. I also, when I reviewed your survey yesterday, I saw you mentioned you are related to Gordon Linton.
Yeah, we like distant cousins. I found that out after I got there. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, I talked to Mr. Linton pretty frequently, so I'm going to mention that the next time I talk to him. Okay, so then moving to the Black Caucus, what was your involvement with the caucus itself during your time here?
What was the what?
What was your involvement with the caucus? How were you involved? Did you serve any leadership positions?
Yeah, I being a member first of all, and then eventually I ran for caucus chair and became chair of the caucus at one point. Yes.
What type of things do you remember working on when you were chair?
Well, most of the things we worked on was police reform, criminal justice reform, trying to improve criminal justice rules, policies, deal with police issues as it relates to discriminatory practices in the community, trying to increase the representation in terms of encouraging people to become police officers. And I had some policy hearings as it relates to police issues with the Guardian Civic League, and the person who was president of the Guardian Civic League, Rochelle Bilal, who happens to now be the sheriff.
Okay.
Yeah. So we had two people that was head of the Guardian Civic League that became the sheriff of Philadelphia. And then we had Al Deal, who was a state rep and who was a member of the NAACP and a police officer. And you had me, and then you had John Green.
I hear a lot about Alfonso Deal, and unfortunately, he's no longer with us. We didn't get to interview him. Do you have any fun stories since you brought it up about Representative Deal, or because you guys sound like you have a similar path to the House if you were both?
Oh yeah, well, Deal was one thing about Alfonso Deal. He was real sharp with the Robert Rules of Order, so he knew that real good, and so he would argue those down in the FOP meetings and on the House floor. He was good at that, and he was just a leader, exemplar in terms of his activity, and a champion because he was active as an official in the NAACP too. He headed the Philadelphia chapter at one point.
So how do you think your House service was impacted by serving on a chairship with the Black Caucus and as a member of the Black Caucus?
How my service was impacted?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that it enabled me to bring attention to and address issues that impacted our community as it relates to police reform, criminal justice reform, trying to improve some of the policies as they make changes in different laws.
Okay. All right, let me see here. My last question then is, what other advice would you give to people of color, African Americans, Latino, Muslim, who want to pursue a career in public service?
Well, I think that my advice to them would be to become active in your neighborhood, in your community, in your block. Get active in terms of concerns that are raised by your neighbors, by your community. And you start out that way in terms of getting people to know, getting people to address your concerns, and you addressing concerns of the people in your community. And that way you get to know people, people get to know you, and then you get active in with organizations. And as you get active in organizations, you develop or enhance policies and concerns that impact your community.
All right. That was my actual last question. Is there anything else you'd like to discuss regarding the caucus, or anything that maybe you mentioned on your survey that I didn't touch upon?
Well, I'm glad to see that the House is more, we have more African Americans in the leadership with the elevation of Joanne McClinton. I think that is surprising because she took Ron Waters' place as a state rep, and now she's in the leader for the Democratic Party. I just think that's amazing. That's good because when I was there, you only had Dwight into the leadership as appropriations chairman, but now we have more. So I'm glad to see that. And you have Jordan Harris as a minority whip.
Okay. Anything else that comes to mind?
No, I just think that it's good for the Black Caucus to continue to push for reform, enhance relationships, build relationships, and impact in our on concerns for African Americans and other minorities.
Okay. Well, this was wonderful. It was a pleasure meeting you and talking to you.
My pleasure.